Hi guys, let's have a look at this 1997 question. Explain with the aid of examples for each what is meant by a syntax error, logic error, execution error. And I've answered. Syntax error, when the code does not follow the conventions of the coding language, for example a missing speech mark, a misspelt variable name, or an extra bracket, this code will not compile. Logical error, when the code successfully performs an algorithm but produces a result that was not the desired result, for example output of the average rather than the total sum of a calculation, this code will compile. Execution error, also known as a runtime error, this code will cause the algorithm to malfunction while it's executing, causing all or some of the program to crash. Common runtime errors include divide by zero or infinite loops. This code will compile. Okay. So I'm going to say that they get you 3 marks. Let's have a look at your examples. Let's zoom out a bit and let's look at Buca's first. A syntax error is an error in the language in which was used, and it cannot be understood or executed because it is not in the programming language. Example 0 divided by 1 is a syntax error on a calculator. I'm not going to give you that because we're not talking about calculators, and that's actually a runtime error. Divide by 0, I think. I think that would run, wouldn't it, on the calculator? So I'll give you 1 mark for that. Logical error. A logical error is an error in the code in that was not intended. 1 minus divided by 1 equals a logical error. 0 marks. Execution error is an error in running the program. For example, not end in and having execution error. Runtime error is that. Okay, so I'm going to give you 1 mark out of 9. Adam, the syntax error is when the statement does not follow the rules laid down by the programming language. An example of this would be that there was a punctuation mark that had been misplaced or a spelling mistake. Don't forget, the spelling mistakes are fine as long as you're consistent. I'll give you 3 marks for that. A logical error is when the program is able to do... A logical error is when the program is able to be executed perfectly, however it does not output the result that the program had initially intended. For example, an example of this would be a statement stating x is greater than 3 instead of x is greater than or equal to 3, or x is less than or equal to 3. Okay, I'll give you 3 for that. It's a bit... You haven't stated what the intention was there, so there's the weakness there. Actually, I'm going to give you 2, so you got 5 out of 6 so far. Execution error, aka runtime error, is when the code is able to be executed, however, would not give a final output. For example, in LMC, is you use the condition BRZ, break at 0, and the current value goes below 0, the code would be stuck in an infinite loop. Execution is when the code is able to execute, however, would not be able to give a final output. Oh, I like that. Alright, I'll give you 8 out of 9 there. Well done, Adam. On to the next one. Sudip. Syntax error is when the computer cannot understand and comprehend the coding language that has been typed in due to it not being part of the language. Detected during the execution. During the execution, the code, e.g., put hello world. It's too woolly there. It's when the computer cannot understand the language. Alright, I'll give you 2 for that because it's a bit hard to read. This is a syntax error as it breaks the law of Ruby coding, should be a not. Okay. No, okay, I'll give you 3 out of that. Logic error. Logic error is an error that's caused due to the fact that the code did not get the answer they deserved. Desired due to the mistake in the code, e.g. Ruby 2 plus 5 times 5 equals, but the user wanted to work out. Oh, come on! I'm going to give you 2 out of 3 for that. I can see where you're going to the BIDMAS, the orders of operation, but you haven't expressed that very clearly. Runtime error: an error caused due to when running the code, as it may be the computer might not be able to complete, caught to crash, save. Oh, sorry, where is that? This comes to computer error of its infinite. I'm going to give you. Divide by 0 is a good example. Oh, that's really. I'm going to give you 6 out of 9. It is very hard to read your work. Please be mindful of the examiner being an ungenerous person on holiday earning extra cash. If they can't read it, they're not going to give it to you. Some of the sentence structure wasn't brilliant there. Trick 'em. Logical error is a bug in the code which leads to the code being unable to be processed correctly. So it's an error of some sort, is it? Giving an incorrect result, e.g. a wrong function used in the code. 0 marks. Syntax error, when the code cannot be understood due to the mistake in the code. It's another mistake in the code, is it? E.g. a misspelled word or a forgotten character. 0 marks. Execution error is when the code program cannot be executed properly and is kept going until all memory is full and unable to function, leading to computer to crash. Okay, I'll give you 1 out of 9 for that. Please review the other comments. Brandon, syntax error is when the grammatical rules of a computer language is broken, preventing the program from executing. An example would be writing print to output the piece of text. Okay, excellent. Logical error is when the output is different than that was expected. The program itself has no problem executing. An example would be in having a piece of code loop forever because you forgot to add a break function. No, that would be execution error. So I'm going to lose a mark there. Different than expected. So yeah, so you've described a runtime error in a loop. That's not a logical error. That's a tough one, isn't it? We came across that before. The execution error, otherwise known as a runtime error, is when a program stops running during the execution. An example would be telling the program to locate a file on a non-existing directory, meaning the test of the code will not be able to run unless it has a validation thing. Right, so please can we notice how easy it was for me to read Brandon's work and the excellent sentence structures, well, the much better sentence structures he's used. Lose a mark for the logical error example. An example would be telling the program to locate a file, non-existent directory, means test. I mean, the runtime error, Brandon's example would only work if you hadn't validated it. You could have code that checks to see, and if file does not exist. So he hasn't specified it, so I'm going to lose another mark for that. I'm going to go for 6 out of 9. Oops, that's Brandon on 6 out of 9. Oops, I missed. Okay, on with the next one. Marwan, a syntax error is an error which occurs when the instructions does not, no abbreviation, follow the rules of the language. It's true, isn't it? No example, no elaboration, 1 mark. When the code compiles and runs, however, does not do what the user intends. I'll give you 2 marks for that one. Okay. The error which does not allow the code to compile and run. Why? Because remember, syntax error does the same. So I'm going to give you 1 mark for that. So I'm going to give you 5 out of 9, Marwan. And then here we go, next one. Dylan, syntax error. A mistake is the program leading to the program. Syntax error. A mistake is the program leading to the program not being able to compile correctly. Missing out punctuation is an example of where this occurs. Being able to, you've said what happens, you haven't said why, so that's 2 out of 3. Logical error. The output from the code isn't which was expected. This is due to an error in the code. So it's an error in the code again, is it? Wow, that's really interesting. The code is able to compile and run and execute. An example is mixing up the greater than and the less than sign, leading to an incorrect output. So you haven't really elaborated and tied it in with what the user intended. I'll give you 2 marks for that. Runtime error. This code continues to run for an infinite amount of time. This will lead to the memory being filled up and the computer crashing. That's an example. It doesn't always do that. Sometimes it just stops. It doesn't have to be an infinite loop. An example for this is the division code, however, and if statements for that happen, then the value below 0 isn't there. No, that's not true. You're confusing LMC's inability to do division. And hey, I think my calculator does division rather well, actually. Divide by 0 is a type of run, but you haven't said that, so I'm going to give you 5 out of 9. And 2 more to go. Faris, syntax error is when there is an error in the code. It's an error in the code again, is it? Right, this is a concurrent theme, isn't it? Maybe errors are errors in the code. Because of the arrangement of the code is incorrect, i.e. hello puts, because it doesn't follow the rules of the code. So save you bacon there, 2 out of 10. Logical error is when there is a fault in the program where it is to run incorrectly, i.e. puts the wrong Boolean value. Logical error is where a fault in the program where it is to run incorrectly. And the Boolean value. No, so 0 marks for logical error. Execution error is like a runtime error where there is a fault. There is another apostrophe while running the code to cause it to not function. Too vague. I'll give you 3 out of 9 for that. And then finally, Kabir, syntax error, an error of language resulting from code that does not conform to the syntax of the programming language. Wrong variable may be used. So, good definition, no inadequate example, 2 out of 3. Logical error, an error is the formula used in the code which executes the code but does not produce the result wanted. Good, incorrect formula or sign used in the code. Alright, I'll give you that 3 out of 6. 5 out of 6. Execution error, an error in executing the code as the computer may run out of memory, which causes an execution error. Yeah, kind of circular argument with actually saying why it would run out of memory. Maybe it ran out of memory because the program was too big. So I'm going to give you 5 out of 9.